start recording, and then maybe we can just go around. We've got Airdrie.
Got Colleen and Angie.
Ranchlands.
Yeah, Christine here.
And Dave and Shannon, Cold Lake.
Hey, how's it going?
Hi, Dave. We've got Flagstaff.
That's not Arizona, right?
No, they probably wish. And then we have Central Alberta or Black Falls, which is Gloria. It's not showing an audio there, so hopefully she can hear us. Maybe she doesn't have a microphone. And then we've got Rocky Mountain House. So Marcy and Raylene.
Yep. Oh, Raylene's from Flagstaff.
Oh, Flagstaff. Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, so
okay, that's great. I've actually spoken to some of these people in the past, so this is great that we can show it online. Is it okay for me to go ahead and start now?
Absolutely.
Okay, so when you first start up the system, it asks you to log in on a screen just like this. Every user gets their own unique ID, and the system records everything that people do and when they did it, so that if you see something on the screen, you can always tell who was the last person that made a change on the screen and when the change was made. So I'm going to log in with my user credentials, if I could remember what they are. Oh yeah. Something else I'll just point out before I click OK. Down at the bottom here it says press the F1 key for help on any screen. So if you forget what to do, you just press the F1 key on your keyboard and it pops up a little window that tells you the screen that you're on. This is a login screen, so it's just giving you some basic information. But if I go to the table of contents, you will see that all the different topics are in here, and you can click on anything and basically figure out what's going on, and hopefully to phone me for support. Having said that, if you do have a question, I'm here 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. I work out of my house, so don't be afraid to call me about anything that you want to ask a question for. Don't be afraid thinking that it's a hassle for me to bother me. I'm a lonely old man, and I appreciate the contact. Okay, so this is the main menu, and the thing that most people use is the Clients button, so I'm going to go on that one first. I'll show you the other buttons later, but we'll start with Clients. So when I click on that, it brings up a screen that is placed so I can add a new client, but I'm going to jump to an existing one just to show you how it can be populated. And we'll go to Jane Smith. So as soon as I go to a client, you can see that this whole row of tabs here appears, and there's all the different information that we can store for. Whoops, sorry about that. I'm trying to minimize something else that's blocking part of my screen here, and I clicked the wrong thing. How do I minimize this? There we go. Okay. So when you're initially entering a client, you obviously fill in their first name, their last name, and their address, their contact information. If you put a birth date in here, if you know their birth date, it will automatically figure out their age as of the date of the occurrence. The occurrence date is over here. If you don't know their birth date, that's fine. You can just type it in. And if it's a youth, you have a place to put in the parent or guardian for the youth. And you have 3 different phone numbers that you can store in here. You can pick different types of phone numbers, primary, mobile, home, and so on. And the system, oh, there's also a place for an email address if you want to record that. The system has to have a unique file number for every file. It can automatically assign file numbers for people who want to do that. We have some units that want to use the police file number every time, and it can do that as well. So you'll see a mix in this demonstration software. Sometimes you'll see a system, a number like this is assigned by the system, and sometimes you'll see one that's a police number. So when you do get in a referral, if you don't know the codes for the agency, you can look them up on this ticket, and it will fill in the police agency code down here. You can keep track of who the investigator is, and when you set up your system, normally you put all the different members of the detachment that you have in your VS unit, so you don't have to type it in all the time, although you can type it in if it's somebody new. And then, of course, the referral source could come from the police, could come from a variety of other places. And then who referred it? and the police agency that's involved. And down here we have a place for a watch or a unit number. If you put that in there, you can print a report to show how many referrals you received from a particular watch. And in some units like St. Albert, they give a pizza out every month to the unit that gives them the most referrals. Over here at the top we have a referral date, and if you decline it, you can put in a date there. With this proactive decline, in addition to putting in the decline date, will also wipe out the contact information so that personal information is no longer in your system, but it will leave the actual record in place so that for statistical purposes, we can count how many declines we had. Then the occurrence date, a brief description of what it is, lots of different categories to pick from, and then you can also have a very short description of what exactly happened at for that occurrence. And if you're working in an environment where you deal with more than one community, such as here in Red Deer, they deal with Red Deer and Innisfail, you can specify which city is receiving the service, and then the program can produce statistics by city, so you get statistics just for Innisfail or just for Red Deer or whatever your communities are. If it's a crisis call-out, you can check that off and it will give you statistics about that. And when you get a new referral, you can give it a priority number. So a 1 would indicate high priority and a 2 is normal priority. If you put a 1 there, then it will, if you put a 1 there, then it will be showing in pink on our new referrals list, and if it's a 2, it's just a normal color. So it doesn't do anything special there. Then the date that the file is opened, and contact status, you can say I've verified the info or I was never able to make contact. We'll just make this one verified. And then for situations where you have multiple clients or client files and they're related, you can assign a group number to them. And the system will then enable you to jump easily between two files for Jane Smith. I could go over here to the related files tab. It tells me that I have another Jane Smith file, which is also in group 2. And it's links files based on police file numbers. So because I'm using VSU file numbers, I can have 2 different files with the same police number, and the system says this other file here for Jane Doe is got the same police file as this one. So it makes it easy to jump to related files. Down here we have some special instructions. You can pick from a list of standard, or you can just type in something special, and then when you're working with a file, in situations where you actually have the computer in front of you, you can see what special instructions apply to this particular file. Down in this corner here we have notes. Of course, this is where you do a lot of your work. You can read the notes here, but we actually add them on a different tab, and I'll show you that in a minute. So I can look at these notes, but I can't actually change them here. If I type in there, nothing happens. We have a date closed, and when you fill out the date closed, the system looks up a table and says, oh, this is a domestic assault, and it figures out how many years that's supposed to be kept on file, and then it will put a purge date in here, which might be, say, 10 years down the road, and then there's a button in the administration menu that you can click and say, get rid of all the files that are due to be purged, and they'll be removed from your system as of the purge date, or after the purge date, I should say. And then for those of you that do surveys after follow up with clients, we just have some things here that indicate whether someone's asked or has agreed to do a survey and how we mailed out the survey or telephoned them, and then whether that survey was completed. So they use that in St. Albert because they like to follow up with their clients and get an assessment of how they're doing. So that's the main information of the file. Then we have all these other tabs, and I'm going to go through them now. The second tab over contacts, we can put in the names of people who are related to the person or who are related to the file, and you have a whole bunch of different possible things that you can pick here in terms of how they are related. And it's just for your information to keep track of people that are linked to that client. On the next tab, accused, we have a listing of the accused. You can have 1 or more. And again, we report information about the accused. If they are going to court, we have a docket number for them. And we also keep track of whether we're supposed to notify the client after these court appearances. And after after an accused has appeared, we can click select charges, and we can pick the charges that they have been charged with and put them in here. And when we click close, it fills them all out on this long line there, and that appears in a token create to notify the court. I'll get to that one in a minute. And then down here we have court conditions. So there's a bunch of things, and you could check off a couple of things. Say that these guys are supposed to go for domestic violence counseling. That's one that Cochrane asked for. And down here we have court outcome. If you want to type in a brief description there, you can. So this is where we keep information relevant to each accused on the file. The next over is support activities. Oh, something I should point out, over here we have added by, and it has the user ID or the logon ID of the person who added it and the date that they added it. And then down here we have the user ID of the person who last changed this record and the date that it's changed. So everything that's in this system does record this information, and you can immediately figure out how did this get in here or who made this change. Just look over here and it will tell you. So for support activities, Jody Young in Red Deer did this support, and it was on February the 29th, and she picked a couple of items from this list here. You can see the items that she off, and when she checks them off and clicks OK, they appear in a list like this. And then the number of clients that this particular support was given to, it's normally a 1, but in the case of a court appearance, you might have a family that comes, and you might be giving support to 3 or 4 people. So you can change this number if the things that you're doing apply to more than one person. And this all has to do with those statistics that go to the Solicitor General. And then if there's something that you did that wasn't in this list of things that we have for standard activities, you can just type it in here on the additional info, and again, tell it how many people you were helping, and that enables you to do things that aren't standard. And then down here we have referral support, and list that Red Deer populated this database with. When you get the trial database, you will see this. I see that email that you sent just arrived, the second one. So I don't know why that's so slow. So you check off as many places that you referred them to, and if you did a referral that wasn't in the list, you can type it in here, and again, the number of people that were helped with that referral. You'll notice this is a 0. The system counts as 0 as a 1. If you fill out this part up here, it assumes that was for one person, even though this defaults to 0. But if you make it greater than 0 or 1, then it counts it as however many you actually typed in. Okay, next thing is what information we gave them. We call this, and the reason we do that is because we have many, many different brochures, but we put them into groupings. So the groupings that they use in Red Deer, or here's a couple of them, they have all brochures, which is a huge list, or they can just say all the court brochures, or just the family violence brochures, or the grief brochures. They pick one of these packages, and then you just see the list of brochures that are in that package. You check off the ones that they wanted, and again, it puts them in a list like this. We also have a copies button here, because occasionally we will give out multiple copies of things like victim impact statement. So you say you gave out 5 copies of that, you'd put a 5 there, and it would count the 5 for purposes. We keep track of how we sent it to them. In this case, they came by and picked it up, and the date that happened. Now, the next tab is draft notes, and I mentioned on the main screen in the bottom right corner there was about this file, but this is where we actually enter those notes. On the main screen, you just can read them, but here's where we enter them. So every time you enter a note, I'm just going to delete this from our last demonstration, you can click this button here that says timestamp, and it puts in the current date and time and who you are, and then you can type in your note. So I'll just type in some garbage, and when of course, I can edit this note and do whatever I want with it over here. When I click the save button, it takes what I have here and moves it over onto the right-hand side where it becomes part of the permanent note. So the idea behind this is if you have new people or you have advocates that you want to review their notes before they become part of the permanent system, we can control whether or not a person is allowed to click the save button. And if you don't have permission to do it, if you're a new person, you can type in your note here, and then the administrators or the staff members can review your notes, take a look at them, make sure everything is correct, and then when they approve it, they click the save button and watch what happens. When I click save, it's going to move that note over here. So the draft note has been appended to existing notes, and now here it is right up here at the top. And you'll notice that I put this note up at the top. There's 2 options. You can have the notes append to the bottom so that they read down in terms of the order that they were added, or you can tell the system to append them to prepend them. In other words, put it at the top, which means that all the notes are in reverse order and the most recent note is always at the top. So it's whatever you prefer to do at your unit. There is also the option to record your work, the amount of time that you spend on a file. This feature here is not used a lot, but some people like to have it just because on a big file you might be wondering how much time are we spending with this person. So I could type in here and say that I spent 10 minutes working with this person today. I click OK. When I do that and I go over here and I look at the work time tab, I'm going to jump over here. It's literally on August the 4th, I spent 10 minutes. If I come along later and I go, oh, gee, I had to phone them and I spent some more time, it comes up and it's recorded 10 minutes. Oh, I put on another 5. I go, OK. And when I go over here to work time, it now spent 15 minutes. I can also cheat and I could say, where was it? Draft notes. I could say 15, and now it's going to say, okay, you didn't work anything on it today. It removed it completely. So that's something some people use, but not a lot. Next item is tasks. Tasks are a variety of things. Basically, you can say, you can choose from any of these. You can set up reminders for yourself. You can say, I'm supposed to phone this person back in 2 weeks. And when you do that, the reminder task will just hide in the background. And 2 weeks from now, the next time you log on, it will display a message when you log on saying you have some outstanding reminders. And you can then go in and look at them and deal with those that were supposed to be done. Or you can set up all these other types, and they just show up immediately in various task lists that I will get to later on when we show you some other buttons on the menus. So here we've set up a follow-up, and it's called a court update. Again, and there's a bunch of different from, and who it is that's supposed to do it. Or we can leave the staff ID blank, and the next available person could do it, and then some brief description about it. Once you put a date over here and date cleared, that tells the system that this task has been dealt with, and it will remove it from the list so people don't see it anymore. Although it's still in the system if you ever want to go back and look at it. Okay, the next item over is
I know something is burning. I don't know what.
Sorry, was there a question?
Is it now out there?
I'm sorry, I think I'm hearing somebody asking a question, but I'm not sure what it is.
It sounded like Gloria. Gloria?
No.
No?
Okay. Maybe it was just the background noise then. So I'll just carry on here. This court dates is where you set up the court dates for each client. And again, you pick down here who the accused is and the purpose of this particular court date. There's a variety of different purposes you can choose. And things that you put on this court dates tab will show up on a calendar. And I'll be showing you that in a few minutes. The next tab, join updates. Every time you go onto the join system, you're supposed to log it and the reason, and this is where you type it in. So you say who it is that went on join, when they did it, the reason that they went on the join system, the person that they were searching for, and you'll notice it automatically puts the name of the 2 accused plus the name of the client in there.
Dale, I'm sorry. I think
and
somebody
if you ever get audited,
I think somebody has
sorry?
I think somebody else has their speaker on.
Yeah. If you don't have a question, maybe mute your microphone, and then that makes it a little quieter. We're just hearing Dale and not everybody else. Go ahead, Dale.
I'm not hearing your question, so I'll carry on again. So when I click the Create button, the system opens up Microsoft Word, and it creates the document that we have to send to the court. So I'll just tab over to that. See the notification for victim impact, the court notification, and it fills it all in. And down here, it has the docket numbers, court dates, and basically all the information that you need to have on this court notification. So it just saves you the trouble of filling it out by hand. The next tab over here is Advocates. You don't have to assign to each file, but some units do like to do that, and this is where you record who is the advocate. And you can have people who do standard work, people who do just court work, or you can have advocates that do both. So some of the bigger units, they specialize and they have just court people and just regular people for advocates. So every time you put it in here, the system then is aware of who this file belongs to, and there are some reports that you can create for your advocates that will say, show me all the files that I'm supposed to be advocating for, and they get just their list of files. Again, you don't have to use this feature, but it's sitting there. Attach is a feature that enables you to take things that might be on paper or even electronic things like emails or voice messages, and you can attach them to the file, just like, and then you can access them. So this is a situation where a person had a victim statement that was given to the police. It was handwritten, so somebody scanned it in, and then we attached it to the file, and if we ever want to look at it, we just click on Open this document, and it will open it up. Now, because this is a test system here, I didn't actually have anybody's statement, so I think I attached some silly document. Yeah, this is an invoice. But that's just how quickly it would pop up if you did have somebody's handwritten notes in the system as an attachment. If it was recording, it would play the recording. If it was an email, it would show you the email. The next thing is time. We showed you this already on the draft notes. There's a place where they can record how many minutes they work on a file. Here we have related files. This just enables me to jump to other files that are related either because of the group number, the police file number being the same. So that's it for the client screen and all the data we store for a client. Has anybody got questions about it?
Sorry, hi Dale, it's Noreen from Flagstaff. I'm just wondering, when you're under, how did you attach a PDF to the system? Like that extra file you said there with the paper or whatever, how did you attach it?
All I did was I clicked the Find button, and that enables me to get to my desktop or wherever I want to go. I was looking for PDFs. I can say, show me all other kinds of files. I'll just go star here. And so you can just pick the file, and when you pick the file, it attaches it to the system. It actually takes that file and moves it into a special folder where we store all the attachments for this system, and then enables you to get to it by clicking on the Open this document button.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Okay, not hearing anything. If you think of something later, don't be afraid to ask, but now we will move on. Oh, I should also point, you can, when you're trying to client, you can just look in the list like this. You can type your letters. I've only got about 10 people in here, so it doesn't show that the list goes on and on and on. But if you have like 1,000 names in here, you could type Johnson, J-O-H-N, and as soon as their name comes up, you press enter, and it brings you to Johnson. So if I go over here, I'm now looking at Brad Johnson. We also, I'm going to close now. We also have other ways of finding people. We have the search database button, so I can search for a surname or a first name. I should say and or, because these things are all cumulative. So I could say John, and I could say occurrence date, and it would look for all those three things and find which matches there are. So I'm going to just put Doe in here because I know I have some Does, and when I go OK, a list of all the people whose last name is Doe, and if I want to go to a file, I just click it. I'm in there. So it's really easy to find people. And the names that it shows you are not just client names. It will also search for parent names. And here's an accused with the name Doe, and here's a victim. So it's not just looking at your clients, it's also looking at the other names you have in your system. So it'll find, basically it finds any names that you've put on either the client tab or the accused tab or the other contacts tab. Okay, so that's searching. New referrals, this is just a list of new files that we have not assigned an advocate to yet. Once you assign an advocate's name to it, then it will disappear from this list. And these top two are in pink, and that's because the priority of those was set to 1 on the client screen. If we'd set it as a 2, then they'd be white like this. And again, if you click the button, it just jumps to that person. You can do what you need to do, and as soon as I get to them, that one will disappear from the list. Okay, so we'll close out of that. down here, now I was mentioning the various kinds of tasks. One of the task types was appointments. So if I click on here, it shows me a list of appointments that we have set up. These are already a long time ago because this data was put in March. But the reason they're still here is because I haven't put in a date cleared. As soon as I add a date cleared, like this, and then go to the file, and close, and that one just disappeared. So it's easy to get rid of them once you've completed the task. Down here is another button, other kinds of tasks. So this is urgent tasks, new files, charges, follow-up. Basically, if it's not a reminder and it's not one of these other ones that we have special buttons for, such as appointments, then it's going to appear in your task list. So we have reminders, appointments, and on the admin menu we have purges and file reviews and messages. Those ones have their own buttons. The rest of them all show up here under task list. And they all work the same way, so I won't bother. I think I have no reminders anyway. Yeah, I don't have any for me, myself. And I should point out reminders only shows reminders for me, whereas those other buttons would show any ones for me or that are blank and weren't specifically assigned to anyone in particular. Okay, court schedule. This just shows, I think I'm going to go with A here because I'm pretty sure I have some future. Yep. This just creates a spreadsheet that shows upcoming court dates. I was open here. I got to find this thing. Work stats. Sorry about that. It's great. I've got so many windows open. I'm having trouble figuring out which one is not that one. Not that one. I can kill this one. Wow. Oh, it's a. My apologies here. I've shot myself in the foot because I thought I'd just bring that up and I didn't see it. Normally after you see this message that says formatting is complete, like this, then this comes up over here. Here we are. Okay, so here's the court schedule, and it just has the name of the victim and some basic information, and whether or not we're supposed to notify the client about the outcome. And if the client has requested support, in other words, they want someone to attend with them, then this column here that says support required will have a yes in it. So
Can I ask a question, Dale?
Sure.
Can any users see that information, or only the person that's logged on?
Well, that was a. So even though you can only see it when you're logged on, it's a spreadsheet, and I can save it, and then I can distribute it to whomever I want. Is that what you mean?
Okay. Yeah. So if I'm the one that inputted that information, but my colleague goes and logs on the next day under their log on ID, will they be able to see that work that I've added into that spreadsheet? Yeah. Okay.
Yes. It shows the entire court list for the victim services unit, not just for you.
Okay.
So,
perfect.
Yes. The answer is yes. Now, court calendar will create a list of court dates that we have, and I'm going to say make this starting on July 1st. Sorry, I'm shooting myself in the foot here again because I've forgotten what date. I'm going to go back to March because a lot of this data was in March. And then it'll go the 1st. So this is March 1st till April 1st. It's going to generate another spreadsheet that's in the format of a calendar. When it's done, oh, I jumped to the wrong one, sorry. Here we are, book 2. So it looks sort of like a calendar, and you can see the various names of people. Again, it's data here, so it's kind of fake. But it's telling you what's happening on what date. So these are advocates who are assigned to court. If we had a trial, it would be in green. We don't actually have a green we don't have any trials in this particular time period in the test data. And if it was an appointment related to court, it would have shown up in here as well, but it would have been highlighted in pink. So I picked bad dates, but basically it would be the same thing, and some of these rows could be other colors indicating that it was either an actual trial or it was an appointment. So I will not save that one either. And we'll come back to here. And shift calendar, this is very similar to a core calendar, but it's for your staff. So every type of work that people have to do can be put in here. I'm going to say for all. You'll notice there's many different calendar types. The letter A will give me all of the activity on the calendar. A C would just show the court calendar, and E would show just the events such as public displays and things like that you might have. F would just show the office calendar for people working in the office. O would show the on-call people, and P would be my personal calendar. In other words, just make one for me that shows me when I have to work. So I'm going to select all just because I want to show you a lot of stuff here. It takes a few seconds for it to generate that spreadsheet. There we go. So I'm going to change the size of this calendar so that we can see it better. So I want to go zoom to be maybe 75%. Try it again. View, zoom. I'm going to make 65%. We'll try that. Okay, we're almost there. What I wanted to get down to is at the bottom. Oh, if I make this bigger, you'll be able to see it. There we go. So down at the bottom, again, we have all these color codes. And you can see we have on-call dispatch 2, on-call dispatch 1, the on-call responders. In Red Deer, they have who are on call that take the call, and then they make more calls to actually find someone to respond. So it's kind of a two-stage process for them. People who are in the office are in pink. If they have an event, it's going to be in aqua. I don't see an event in here. But anyway, you can see how the calendar has different colors for different activities. Just makes it easy to see who is scheduled and when they're supposed to be here. Okay, so let's not save this either. Down here we have time records. This is where people can record their time. On this main, you can only put in your own personal time. So I can put in for Dale Federley that on July the 27th, I was attending advocate meetings. They lasted 1 hour. And for statistical purposes, I was a volunteer. And the explanation about this was that it was a training seminar. So I can put in all my hours here, and then the system can add up all those hours on your quarterly report to the Solicitor General and give you all the statistics that you're probably spending a lot of time doing by hand right now. I'll be showing you this screen again on the administration menu because the administrator can do time records for anybody, not just for the person who's logged in. And it's a little bit clearer when we get to that one, how this actually works. And of course, after I've entered my time, I can print time records list. If I click this, up will come a spreadsheet showing what I've entered. Okay, open file is just one that shows a list of files that are currently open. If I click on it, it just jumps and I can do what I need to do with it. Most of the files in my test database have a date closed in them, so they don't show up in this list. Over here we have a warrant list. Creates a spreadsheet that shows a list of people on warrant. I don't have anybody on warrant right now, so it's going to come up blank, so I won't bother. Watch referrals. This one also creates a spreadsheet. I could say from July 1st to July 31st, show me how many referrals I got and counted by watch, and then I can give the pizza to the watch that gave us the most referrals. Again, I won't bother because I'm not now. Down here we have change password. Anybody can change their password at any time. If you want to log out, you click there. I'm going to get to the admin menu in a minute. Quarterly statistics. This is one that people like to see because this is the thing that takes up a lot of people's time. So if I say that I want to see statistics starting January 1st to March 31st, and I can pick it for an individual city, but I'm going to say for all the cities. If I had picked individual cities, I could choose the city I want to give the stats for. I could also say, just show me stuff that was related to a particular police agency. And in this case, I want to see the Solicitor General statistics. So I'm going to click this button, and the system goes through, and in 2 seconds, well, I don't have a lot of data here, but it created a spreadsheet. And if I look at sheets, I'll just spin it here. Here we are. It populated it with all the different kinds of things that you have to do by hand probably right now if you don't have a computer system. And this is in a format that sends off to the Solicitor General, and you don't have to fill out that PDF form Part A that they have. So all the stuff that's in Part A is covered in this spreadsheet. And quicker than you can by hand. And even how many victims of crime books you distributed at events. In this case, it was 0 during the period we're doing. Okay, so that's that one. Oh, I should point out there was another kind of report I could have chosen, and that was work stats. Now, this is something Red Deer just added recently, but of course you can use it anywhere. If you're putting in all your work time, then you can click this, and I think I already have it running here. Just a minute here. Yeah, here it is. And this doesn't, oh, this one's not got anything in it, so I'm going to run it again. Sorry. I'm not very organized. I'm kind of a scatterbrain, but I'm a retired person, so that's allowed. This takes about 15 seconds because it's taking a blank spreadsheet and it's inserting a row for every person that you have in your staff. There we go, 13 seconds for this one. And I'll just go to Q4. Here's all the names that it inserts names. And if we go to, this is showing Q4, this is January. For the data that we have in here, I think, is in March. So if I go to the March part here, you can 3 hours spent on e-learning there by this person, which is Deborah Black. And this one here, Green Asher, they spent 4 hours doing general assistance, 3 hours on e-learning. Anyway, you can get the idea that it just populates it all. This person spent 6 hours raising, and it summarizes it by quarter, and it also summarizes it by year. So this kind of statistics is useful for them managing their system in Red Deer. On this tab over here, we also have training, and if they selected training as an activity, it just shows the date and what they were doing, and makes it easy to get those statistics that you have to send in on the Part B form for the Solicitor General. I was just talking to Jody Young today in Red Deer. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm just wondering, how do you add this information in? So like the volunteers' hours, where is that inputted to be generated into the spreadsheet, or those training times, or where does that get put in? Or do we have to manually add it into this spreadsheet?
No, you don't annually into the spreadsheet. It's all automatic, and it's right here on this time records button. I was showing you this earlier. So each person puts in their own time and what they were doing, the date it was, how many hours, and what kind of activity. So this was a advocate meeting. So this time here was advocate meetings on July 27th on that spreadsheet. So if I go over to the spreadsheet and I look at July, which is in Q2, and
so all those volunteers, or all those people that you have listed there, do they all have their own login? Like how many logins can each unit have?
There's no limit to how many logins you can have. At some units, like in Red Deer, everybody has their own login and they can put in their own time. Other units only have 1 or 2 people that use the system, and they can put in time for other users on the admin menu, which I haven't shown you yet. So it is possible to put in everybody's time. And I should also point out, you don't have to put in it for every day, because say someone works 5 days during the week and they do a total of 40 hours, you could put in 40 hours of office work and give it 1 day. And so long as that date is within the reporting period, the quarterly reporting period, then it's going to work in the statistics just fine.
Okay, and then can
so
you...
I'm going to show you more details. Sorry?
I have a question as well. Go ahead.
For each advocate, are you able to, I guess, tweak the system to what they can and cannot do? Like as a staff member, we have full access, and then as an advocate, they only have access to input so-and-so. Like, can the access be restricted?
Absolutely. And that I'm going to get to next. That's on the user ID screen. So yes, definitely everything is locked down. So I'm an administrator. I can see all the buttons when I'm giving this demonstration, but you can restrict it so that they can only do certain tasks. And if they're not allowed to do a task, the button just disappears. They don't even see it. So for example, being able to save your own draft notes, you won't even see the save button if you haven't got that privilege. But we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay, my question is, so can the advocates have access to do this from their home then?
No. At the moment,
okay.
Well, I should qualify that. This system is intended for use on a local area network, and in St. Albert, that network is not even connected to the internet because they're very concerned about hackers getting in, and this, you know, this data is very confidential. So the short answer is no, you can't work from home. Having said that, some units do have their data running on computers that also have internet access, and it is possible for someone from home to set up their system so that they can do something called remote desktop, which means that they can control their work computer from home. And so, yes, using a tool like that, it is possible to access this stuff from off the premises.
Okay.
Nobody that I'm not aware of anybody who's actually doing that, but it is possible.
So sorry, just clarification on that. Are you saying that you can't put this on a computer that has internet access?
Most units don't do that, but you can do whatever you want. The system doesn't know whether it's on the internet or not, so each unit can set their own policy. In Red Deer, in St. Albert, they're very strict about this. They say no, 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 we don't want anything to happen, so they don't allow it. But other units are not so strict, and they do allow. So it's up to you what your level of tolerance is for the possibility that you might get hacked if you're on the internet.
Okay, so then do you know if this program is able to be used on RCMP computers?
No,
like, will the RCMP block it?
Yes, the procedure for getting a program authorized on RCMP systems takes many months because they go into your program and they reverse engineer it and figure out what you're doing and make sure that you're not doing anything malicious. And we've never even tried to do that with this because it's a relatively new program. But even if we did think we wanted to, I'm sending out updates every 10 days to 2 weeks. Like, we're on version 28, and we only started last December with numbering the versions. Oh, wow. So that's almost one a week on average. And every time there's an update, it would have to redo the certification procedure, which takes months. So at this point in time, the short answer is no, not on the RCMP computers. You have to have your own separate computer to run this on.
Okay, thank you.
And if you have multiple users, you'd have to have your own separate little network. It's not going to be attached to the RCMP network. That might change someday, but it's probably a long way away. Okay, next thing, court activity. This is just another spreadsheet that do the court activity. Can't remember what I've got in here. Sorry about that. As I mentioned, my memory's got Alzheimer's here. We'll just see what comes up. Oops, got to go another one. Way down here. Oh yeah, right. So this just shows you the number of court contacts. Basically, it's if you're doing court-related work, this is a spreadsheet just for those people who do court so they can see their statistics. How many people they're helping in the month of August and how many they helped year to date. So we really data in the test database here for that, but if you did, those numbers would show up. So it's the number of files they're working on and the number of people that they help. Now let me get rid of this thing too. And then monthly report. Now this is something that was requested by Leduc originally, but other cities seem to like it as well. So I can find out what activity is going on. I'm going to change this to be March 31st because that's where most of my data is. And I could say for all cities or individual cities. And if I'm doing individual cities, I can say base it on the client's city, in other words, where the client resides, or I can say base it on the occurrence city, which is, it's called the site city now. We changed the name of it. But it's on the, where we can specify that a particular file was related back to a particular community. That was on the main menu of the client screen. And then we can choose different kinds of chart types. I'm going to do a pie chart. So we'll just quickly run this and see what happens. So it creates an Excel workbook that has several sheets in it. It's going to take it a few seconds. There we go. And if I can jump to that. So here are some statistics, all cities right here. And it's just showing how many files we had that were family violence, how many were required intervention. You can see all these statistics. And this was what was requested by Leduc. If you wanted other kinds of statistics, just let us know and we will do it for you. And it creates these charts. So if you wanted to have some chart, it shows by age, and we've only got 2 different age groups set up here. If we had more data, we would have more age groups here. And that's for all cities. And oh, this is March 2016, and this other one was year, so they're slightly different. Not very good. Anyway, you get the idea. So if you have some kind of statistical reporting that you have to do for your unit, just let us know, and we'll see if we can set it up for you. I should point out that if you need changes, we don't normally charge anything extra for that. In fact, every installation that we've done 8 of them now, every unit has had something unique that they do that nobody else has needed up to that point, and so we just have added it on for them. So if you need something and it's reasonable, meaning that's likely that somebody else might also find it useful, then we'll just go ahead and do it. If it was something way out there like make the thing talk so I don't have to type anymore, then that's not going to be free. Survey report. Oh, this is to do requesting people's information or people to give you an opinion about what kind of service you're doing. Then this gives you a list of people that you need to contact about getting their feedback on surveys. And a location report is a spreadsheet that shows you where your clients are located. I'm going to change this to be date opened of January. We'll just see what we get. It would help if I put in a valid date. 1. There we go. And that's the ending date for the thing from January 4th up to August the 4th, which should be all the files that are in here. And you can see we don't have very many files, but it's sorted them by the occurrence city, which is now called the site city. I got to modify this so that everything's consistent. We just changed this last month. So if it's an unknown, they show up here because it thinks that unknown is the name of a town. Here's the 2 for Red Deer. Here's one for Innisfail. Here's some for Red Deer, Alberta, which are not as Red Deer because this one had blank for province. So the system isn't that smart. It doesn't realize that Red Deer blank is Red Deer AB. To avoid that, just make sure you fill in both fields every time, and then they'll all be grouped together. So that's just to give you an idea of where your clients are coming from. Okay, so that's it for the main menu. Click on the admin menu. If you don't have the admin menu privilege, then you would never see this button. But because I'm giving you a demo, we do see it. And I'm going to jump right down here to the users button because you already asked a question about how do you control what you do. So everybody who logs on has to have a user ID. And sometimes, like in Red Deer, they use their Hermes number. Other places use users' initials or some other short version of the person's name. The system doesn't care what you do. The only hassle with this using of the Hermes number is sometimes your people don't have Hermes numbers, and then what do you do? So for Red Deer, because they already started with Hermes numbers, they said, can you make something so that if we put in a person that didn't have a Hermes number and we said their user ID is ABCD, that once they get a Hermes number, we can update the system and change it. So I had to add this button over here called Change User ID that lets them do that. But it's a hassle. If you can just come up with a naming convention that always will work, you don't ever need to change their user ID. Button over here, this Change User ID, goes through all the files in the system, looks up for every place that the old user ID was ever used, changes it to the new user ID. So it could take a while for it to go through and do all that if you had a lot of data. Anyway, so when you type in or when you fill out of the user, you get this down here where it says privileges, and you'll see there's a big long number here and then a list. And when we click on this list, there are a large number of things that you can control about whether they're allowed to do that or not. Most of your advocates will only need a few of the buttons up here at the top of the list. All this other stuff down here is usually reserved for administrators. So you can control whether somebody will see a button or not. For example, deleting clients, you might not want a new person to have that one because if they accidentally delete a client, it's just gone. And you don't want that to happen because then you got to go to a backup and restore. So I wouldn't give the delete clients privilege to anybody except a very competent person, or maybe I just keep it for myself. That way if it goes wrong, there's only one person to blame. So you can go through this list when you get the software, but you can see that we do lots of different things here. So saving of approving draft notes, that's where that save button is. On the draft notes, when you type it on the left-hand side of the screen, I clicked the save button and it moved it to the right-hand side of the screen. If I didn't have this checked off, then I wouldn't have been able to click that save button. Okay, so I removed this delete clients from this list. If I click OK, this number that you see here, this 983103 is going to change. As soon as there you go, 9833095. And that's because each of those privileges has a number assigned to it, and it takes all those numbers and adds them up and gives you this big number. You don't really need to know that, but I'm a tech guy and I think that's cool. Okay, I'm going to, export. If you ever want to see a list of everything, you just click export and it sends it out to a spreadsheet. And if you ever want to find a person, instead of scrolling through the list, you can just type their last name, and it just jumps right to that person. There's Jody Young. Okay, so that's users. We also have a thing called staff members, and it's very similar to users, except this is where all of your staff goes. And the reason you need two of these things is that not every staff member is allowed to log in, and a user ID is for logging in and giving your privileges. So you could also put in other kinds of staff that will never log into your system, like board members, or maybe you have some advocates that aren't computer literate. You don't want them to ever log in, so you could just set them up as an advocate and you do all their time entries for them. This screen also keeps track of a lot of other stuff that's just for statistical information, such as the date they started, when they got their Solicitor General certification, when they got their clearance date from the RCMP, when it's going to expire. This is important because you can export a list and see whose clearance is coming up for renewal. When you activated them, this is an important date. If they're not activated in the system, they don't show up as an option on any of the drop-down lists. When they leave your unit, you put in the date terminated. And if you want to prevent this user from ever being used again, you just put in date disabled here and no one can pick it. And then if they do have a user ID, you pick it here to link this staff member with the user ID. And then their employment start date, end date. You can set it up in teams so that when you're assigning, when you are using, the work time, you can say, just show me stuff for a certain team. If you have a big office, most people don't use this. Their operator license, if you want to keep track of whether they can drive or not. And again, you can export all this. So basic information. I'm going to jump up here to the top now to settings. This is where you specify information specific to you. So this is Red Deer. You would put your own unit's name and address up here and their phone number, whatever your email address is. You can control whether or not people have to change their passwords periodically. This is set to 100 years, which is 36,500 days, but you could make it whatever you want. Down here, you can choose the different types of assigning of the VSU file units numbers. Right now, this system is set up to say every new file will go year, which would be 16 dash and then a 4-digit number, or you can say 16 dash and a 3-digit number, or you can say manual, meaning I'm going to type it in. You would use this when you're bringing over your old paper files and putting them into the new system. And then once you've got them all in, we could switch you to an automatic method. You can have no hyphen in there, or you can have a police file number. And this controls how long people are allowed to change their time records. I was doing a test here, so I had it set to 1,031, but really we would normally say just for the last month. If you want to save typing, you can specify the name and address that you usually enter when you're adding new clients. If you frequently have different field or different cities, then leave it blank and it won't default to anything. And the police file number format, some people want to just type it in the way it always comes. Other people want it to be 2016 dash and then an 8-digit number. Because early in the year you get 2016 dash 1234, and then it becomes 12345 and 12345 and then 7 digits. Because as they get longer, the way the RCMP does it is kind of weird. But anyway, this is Shirley in Fort Saskatchewan. She likes them all to be 8 digits long, and then they all look the same. And then if you are always working with the same police agency, you can put their code in here. That saves you typing as well, but you don't have to. Don't need to worry about that because you will all be using number 1 there. The program version, you can see we're up to 28. And then here we have some people are interested in. If you want someone to review notes before they're permanently added to the system, you can record who it is that does that by checking this off. In this case, we're not doing that. If you want your notes to be added at the top of the existing note, this is called the prepend option. You check it off here, and we are doing that. If you don't check that off, then the draft notes get added to the end of the notes, of the permanent notes. If you want to go ahead.
Excuse me, sorry. It's Dave Zimmerman from Cold Lake Victim Services. Sorry, we gotta get going here. We've got duty calls. So I just want to thank you, Dale, and thank you, Roxanne, for the webinar. And I do apologize that we got to leave early.
No problem. We're recording it, so if you want to look at this later, you can. Or if you have questions, just phone me direct. It's no problem.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay. Thanks for attending.
You guys.
Thank you. Bye now.
Okay, so back to this multiple benefits warning. This is if you have accidentally checked off both death benefits and injury benefits, I think it's called. Normally you only give out one of those, and again, Shirley up in Fort Saskatchewan is accidentally checking off them both. So she said, when I look at my quarterly statistics, it's all wrong, and then I got to hunt for these. How do I find them? So we added something in here for her so that when she does make that mistake, it warns her and says, are you sure you wanted to give them both of those things, both of those brochures? And support activities reminder, again, this is a nagging thing. At some units, people put in their notes and then they forget to go back and put in what support activities they did for their statistics and what brochures they gave out. So every time that you use the draft note screen, if you've changed something on there, when you go to leave, it will put up a little message that says, don't forget to update your support activities and your brochures. And it's basically a nagging thing. So I didn't check it off here because I don't like being nagged, but some people find that useful. Anytime you make a change to settings, it's going to warn you and say, no, the new settings will not take effect until after the next login. This is correct. Giving me this message is because I changed that 1,031 to be just 31 because I don't really want it to be 1,000 days. Okay, now the rest of the stuff in the left-hand column here is all tables that are in the system. This is where you set up your police members. It looks just like setting up anything else. It's just a name and their watch they belong to. So when people come and go to your police agency, you'll be adding them and or disabling them in this screen. And then offense types. Now some of these things that you can go in and edit will give you a warning, and it'll changing the data in the offense types table may result in inaccurate calculations in reports, such as the Solicitor General Quarterly Statistics. For guidance, call the Vscm support line that's my phone number there, before making changes. So you can add things here. We don't recommend it because this is all set up to work properly for that quarterly statistics report. But if you did want to make a change, if you wanted to add another one that's you in here that's not, let us know. We'll figure it out and we'll step you through the process to do that without messing up the quarterly statistics. And these, they give you the same thing, the activity types, the support types. They will also warn you about that. I won't go into those now. Referral agencies, this is where you can, agencies that are in your region. It comes pre-populated with the ones for Red Deer. You can get rid of them after we've got you trained and just have your own in there. And I should point out that in this referral agencies, it's not just the name, it's also their address and their phone number and their website and who to contact and the email and all that stuff. So when you do go to pick one, I'm just going to quickly show you this. When I go into a client, and I'm going to go refer them to something, if I go to support activities, and I say, okay, I'm going to refer you somebody. Here we go, what to click on there. When I see this list of things, of course, I can scroll down the list, and you'll see that the phone numbers are right there, and I can scroll across and see that their website is there. So when I'm talking to the person on the phone, if you've got this set up so they can be on the computer while they're filling this out, while they're talking on the phone, all the information that they need to refer somebody somewhere is right there. They don't have to go to a book and look it up or anything like that. So it makes it very convenient if you are in a situation where you're able to be on the computer as you're talking to the client. Okay, back to the admin menu. That was referral agencies, brochures. This is, again, some of these brochures are sent to the Solicitor General, others are not. So if you wanted to add brochures that are unique to your unit, you can certainly do that. But before you go and delete brochures that might be in here, talk to us because some of these brochures do go to statistics. And nothing special there. Oh, and never mind. Again, you can export this list to a spreadsheet. That makes it really easy to see what you've got. Information packages. Now, this is where you set up groups of brochures so that when your advocates are picking which brochures they gave to somebody, they don't have to go through a huge long list. So we've set up a court list, and in here you can see the list of brochures that they have in Red Deer is quite long. But the ones that will be seen by the user when they're actually picking the court brochure are just these ones that are checked off. So this just makes it way easier for the users to find the brochures and check them off correctly when they're telling the system what they've given somebody. And you can define these packages any way you want. Court conditions. Again, we have common conditions in here, but you can add more if you want. We added one just the other day here in July the 25th. We added domestic violence counseling because in Cochrane, they keep track of which trials result in a court condition of violence counseling, and then they compare that to what they recommended, and they can do a spreadsheet to see which judges, I guess, or which court appearances are resulting in that being a condition as opposed to their recommendation just being ignored. And court reasons, again, you could add if you wanted here. We have most of them already set up here. We added recently appeal because somebody needed appeal. Okay, so those are tables that you set up, and most of the time once they're set up, you hardly have to come back to them except for new users, new staff members, and new police members. Now reports, changes log. There was a checkbox on the users. I'll just go back to users. There's a thing here that says log change, and if it's checked off, then this will result in everything that they do on a client screen being logged. In other words, you can go and figure out what they were doing and look at it to make sure it's correct. So typically you would check off this box for a new user. If you have old existing users, you might want to uncheck it because you trust them to just do the right thing. And when you look at the changes log, that team they're on, we aren't using Teams, so we'll just skip that. But it shows all the different changes that were in the system, and you can scroll through and see them. If I click on one, I'm just going to click on one down here. It says that this user called DFE, which is me, for this client, or edited something on the client screen on March the 15th. So if I jump to it, there it is. Look at this, review it. It says last change by DFE on March the 15th at 10:27. So you as an administrator could review this and say, okay, did it fill out everything they do? Is everything spelled right? And if it is, then I click close. It brings me back to the list. And sorry, I scroll down to the bottom here. Normally you would work from the top of the list, but it put in this date that I clicked on the Go to Client button. And once I've got a date in here, I can click Purge, and it'll get rid of all the ones that I've looked at so that it disappears. So I'm going to scroll down now. You can see that one's gone. You can, at a glance, just see, oh, what's new that I need to review and check before letting this person run on their own without logging everything that they do. Okay, enough about that. A file ledger, this is used, they always had a printed list of files. And they said, we need a printed list. And I said, but why don't you just look in the computer and you that file was in there. They said, no, 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 we need the printed list. So we made a list for them, and it just shows all the clients that are in this. The problem with this is that every time you add a new client, you got to reprint this list, which brings me back to why don't you just look in the system and see if the guy's in there. But they're concerned about, did we miss anybody? So they find this useful. I shouldn't sound mocking there, but they find it useful, so we do it. I just don't understand. Okay, purge list. If we had a bunch of clients that had reached the purge date, you know, say it was supposed to be held for 10 years, then we can click here, and it would show us a list of files that need to be purged. I'm not actually going to show that list. Oh, why would we still got the went and did it anyway? Do I have a bug here, or did I click the wrong thing? Okay, so there's our list. Oh, right, we don't actually need this anymore because now the system automatically figures out a date. This goes through and finds all the ones that don't have purge dates, even though they're closed. So we need to manually go and look at these files to figure out what the purge date should be. Sorry, I forgot what that did. Okay, time records list. This just shows us, I don't think I got any time in here for July, so I'll make it March 1st. There we go. So this shows everybody's time. It's on the administrator menu. So it's showing me all the time that people have entered for the period March 1st through August the 4th. We don't have very much in here, but it just shows you what it is. So you as an administrator could use this to figure out how much time a particular person worked during the period that you specify. So you can do it on a monthly basis or whatever you want. But to be honest, got that statistical report for Red Deer that we were looking at earlier, that colored sheet. This is probably obsolete. I doubt that people will need this much anymore. This was in there before we got the other one. So I should point out, this is constantly evolving. So every time somebody comes up with a new idea and we go, yeah, let's put that in there, sometimes that means that something that was already in there becomes, you know, why do you have that anymore? So we may end up getting rid of some of these things if they're not necessary anymore, such as this time records list. The join updates report, this is talking about on the client screen, they can say, they can record every time they go into the join system. And then if you got audited, you could just say, okay, show me all those times that Irene Black went in between this date and that date, and it's going to create a spreadsheet and show the list. I won't bother creating it right now. And then down here is messages. This has to do with tasks. If the task type is a message, then instead of it showing up as a task for everybody else to look at, it comes to the admin menu, and you as an administrator can say messages are out there. I had one in here, but I closed it, so it's gone now and you can't see it, but they would show up in here. This is useful if you have advocates that work and you're not there. Say they're working on the weekend or in the evening. They can type into the system their message or their question, and when you come in and you click on this button, you will see it and you can reply. So you never actually have to be in the office with the person. You can work or you can see their questions that they've put into the system while you weren't there. File reviews is similar. One of the task types is file reviews. Typically, an advocate would put this in when they think the file should be closed. So you list of files, and you can jump to the file, and if you agree it should be closed, then you can close the file and then get rid of the task. So nothing special there. Orphan files. This is a special listing for Red Deer. They have a policy in their office that says every file must have a task waiting to be done. So if there is no task on a file, we call that an orphan file. And the reason that they call it orphan is because if it doesn't show up in the task list, nobody's going to do anything with this file. So they always want to have their files showing up, their open files, showing up in the task list so that they don't lose track of the fact that somebody needs to do something about it. So if there's a bunch of files in here that don't have outstanding tasks, even though the file is not closed yet. So this helps them to jump to the file, and they would either close it or they would set up a task so that it's always in their task list. So they basically use their task list as a work assignment for their advocates. Referral conditions. Oh, this was the one for Cochrane where they can go through and create a spreadsheet that shows, I'll just run it here. I'll leave the dates blank so we get everything. So what they're going to do is they're going to say, show me all the ones where we have referred somebody to the domestic violence unit, and I want to see all the ones where the court condition of domestic violence counseling came back. So if either the first condition or the second condition exists, the system's going to put it on the spreadsheet. So we'll just take a look at this and see what it comes up with. Okay, I'll jump to that. So it found all these files, and these ones had court conditions set up for domestic violence. These ones here, these three, they had recommended it, but it either hasn't come to or the court did not impose that as a condition. So they find this useful, and then I think they might send this spreadsheet to the referral agency that's affected by it just for their information, but I'm not sure exactly what all they do with it. Okay, that's referral conditions. Up in utilities, call me if you ever want to use these. Basically, you don't need to worry about those buttons. They're for administrative use only. And, oh, I'll just point out this one. This purge list that I clicked on earlier, that was showing us files that don't have a purge date associated with it yet. And this purge clients is the actual function that would purge the clients from your database once their purge date has been, once we've reached that purge date. Okay, data entry, time record. This is the one that you guys were asking questions of. As an administrator, I can enter time for myself as well as other people. So here's a time record for Jody Young. Here's a time record for Deborah Black. And basically using this function, you can see all the time records that other people in or the ones that you've put in yourself, and you can review them, you can modify them, delete them, do whatever you got to do. So in Red Deer, they use this because they compare schedules. So they have the work schedule that they set up people's expected work shifts for. Then they have all the time that people actually worked and record their time for, and they compare that so that they can see if people are showing up for their shifts or if they're working the amount of time that they were supposed to work. And it just enables them to make sure that all the time that people were scheduled to work is being input into the system, and they don't end up missing anybody's hours. I'll just close out of there for a second. Client notes, this is a special function. Sometimes, even though people aren't supposed to click the save button on the draft notes, sometimes they accidentally attach notes to the wrong file, or other weird things happen. Anyway, with this function, it looks like a client screen, but in fact, all the fields are grayed out except for the notes. And this note, I'm just going to go to the second client. This note down here, which normally on the normal client screen you cannot change, here I can change it. If I want to get rid of the word "and," I just got rid of it. If I want to get rid of the whole note, oops, I just pressed Control-A, which I thought was going to highlight everything. If I go like this, I just deleted all the notes for this client. Or I would delete all the notes for the client. It tells me here, you can see this little thing that looks like a pencil. That indicates that I'm currently editing this record. Now, if I was to click Close, it would save it just the way it is, and the notes would be gone. If I press the Escape key on my keyboard, that tells Microsoft Access, abort, don't do anything. Don't edit this, put it back the way it was, and you'll see that this little pencil thing here is going to change to a triangle. There we go, and my note came back. So I didn't actually delete the note yet because I didn't click somewhere else. Anyway, this is where you can fix errors that people make in their notes, and that's the only purpose of this screen, and I would not recommend you give people access to it unless they really know what they're doing. If you accidentally delete all the notes, too bad. You've got to go to a backup. Okay, next thing is events. This is where you can keep track of events. If you go out and talk to the community about victim services and give out brochures, you do it here. So you just set up the date, and that way it shows up in your calendar. And you can record how many minutes you were there, how many people roughly attended, how many victims of crime booklets you gave out. These statistics will flow through into the crime statistics, or not crime statistics, the Solicitor General statistics where appropriate. And the last thing is work schedule. This is where, in the case of Red Deer, they set up all the shifts that they want people to work, and then they can compare. Then they can produce their calendar of shifts, and they can produce that thing that compares the amount of hours people have entered in the system for actually working to what hours they were expected to work according to the shift calendar, and deal with it. Either find out, oh, they forgot to enter their time, or oh, they didn't show up. You can see we have statuses of no-show here. So if someone didn't show up for their shift, we can record that and do what we need to do for shifts. I'm just going to put in a start date here of, I'll type it in, 2016-0301 to 2016-0331. Oops, would help if I didn't put an extra character there. Would help if this was 03. There we go. Actually, now this looks like an error has occurred. In fact, it hasn't, but for some reason it stops here. If you ever see this happen on your screen where it shows you a highlighted yellow line, this indicates program execution stopped at this point, and it's usually due to a bug. And so what I'd like you to do is do a print screen on this and paste it into an email and send it to me, because I can fix things if I know where the program was when the error occurred. If you just say, oh, something happened yesterday, it said it got an error, then I really can't fix it because I don't know what you were doing or what screen you were on or what part of the program code was executing. So from your point of view, this looks like garbage. From my point of view, this is gold because this helps me to figure out where there's bugs and what I should do to fix it. And here you can see all the work scheduled items that Red Deer put in during the month of March. And there's a lot of them, and that's why we have this filter option so they could show, just show me the stuff for Wendy Green. I go down here for Wendy Green. And then I get a manageable amount of information for her schedule. Okay, so that's long version of what this thing does. Has anybody got questions? Is everybody asleep?
I'm pretty sure they're probably not asleep. Did you go over, I've been busy doing a couple of other things, but did you go over sort of how this started out sort of as addressing the quarterly reports, but has kind of evolved into a full file management type system?
Very good point. I did not do that, so I'll do that now. This all started, I'm a volunteer with Neighborhood Watch in St. Albert, and I'm retired now, but I used to do software development when I actually did real work. So I used to volunteer at the RCMP, so I have a security clearance. So the Victim Services Unit in St. Albert approached the RCMP and said, you know, we'd like to get some of this manual process automated because we spend a couple of days every quarter going through our paper files trying to generate statistics for the Solicitor General. So because I had security clearance, they came to me and said, would you help us do something? So I created a system based on how do we create the quarterly reports for the Solicitor General. After that system got developed, other people started looking at it and said, oh, this is nice, but it's not complete. Can you add this? Can you add that? And this and that and this and that. So over and a half, this program has evolved from basically just the client screen to all this other stuff that you see here with regard to time records and calendars and court scheduling and a whole bunch of stuff that got added on after the initial program was developed. So it's evolving. It's still evolving. Every couple of weeks I'm adding stuff to it, as you can see by our version numbers. In fact, Jody Young and Red Deer phoned me this morning and said, oh, here's a couple more things we'd like you to add. So what can I say? It's a live thing. It's not fixed in stone. We are constantly changing it. So whatever ideas you guys might have that would make it better, we want to hear them.
I have a quick question, Dale. Our unit here in Airdrie, when we're finished with a file, we have to physically put our hard copy file on the RCMP file. So we're not purging or getting rid of our files entirely. They go to the RCMP file, and then when they purge, they do their thing. Is there a way to print the file when we're finished with it?
I'm glad you mentioned that because I forgot. I'm going to the client screen right now. I'm going to bring up a client that has some notes on it. So there's buttons over here on the right-hand side. Talked about these earlier, but there's a button that enables you to copy a client. So if they called you last year and now it's a new occurrence and you want to create a new occurrence for the client, you just click there. If you want to see what brochures we've given them, we have the 6 most populars here, 7, and we just, you can quickly see this person got this brochure, the Victims of the Crime Protocol, on March the 1st, and they got this Victim Impact Statement on March the 1st. The rest of these brochures we haven't given to them yet, so that's just a quick way to do it without going to the brochure screen. But the one you just asked about is the Print Occurrence Report. So we have 2 versions of this. One of them is basic plus accused plus notes, and the other one is just basic. So I'm going to do the accused plus notes version. And what it does is it creates something that looks like the screen, except it's all in print form here. So we've got the client name and the names of the accused file and all of our notes down here. You could just send this to a printer and give it to the RCMP. Or you could make it a PDF and give it to them in electric format, let them print it, or whatever you guys want to do.
Okay.
Some people use this and other people don't. It's up to you. If you wanted additional information other than this, let me know because I can add more types. Right now we just set it to basic, and basic is just that top part, and then the accused, the names of the accused and the notes is the bottom part, but we could add other stuff if you needed it. So yes, we can print it.
Dale, can you also go over sort of the security aspect and how the program itself is loaded onto your laptop or your standalone, and then how it works with your external hard drive? Because that's always a concern.
Sure. Okay, so this is a program is written in Access, which is a Microsoft product. It's integrated with Microsoft Office, like Excel and Word. But the Access program itself is split into 2 parts, what we call a front end and a back end. So the front end part of this program is all these screens and the menus and the stuff that you interact with, but there's no data in that file. It's just blank screens. And then the back end of the Access program is a separate file, and that's where all of your data is stored. And it's just data. There's no screens. There's nothing in there that's user-friendly in terms of being able to view or change the data. So when you have a laptop, you can put the front end on your laptop computer, and you can put the back end, the data, on an external hard drive. And when you have the external hard drive plugged into your laptop, you will be able to use the front end of the program to see the data and run it just the way you see it now. If the external drive is unplugged from your laptop because you're taking your laptop out of the office, then you won't be able to find any data, and this program will try to start up and it'll give you an error and it'll say, I can't find the data that's on the external drive. So you can secure your data by having an external drive that stays in the office all the time, but your laptop can have the front end of the program sitting on your laptop all the time. You could take your laptop out of the office and you're in no risk of having your data lost if someone steals your laptop, because there's no real data there, just this blank screens. That's the question you were wondering about?
Yeah, and I think that this is important to understand, and maybe, like, I'll use Christine or Ranchlands as an example. So she's dealing with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different detachments. So different offices, and so that would be the case for like someplace like Peace River, many of the detachments actually. So would they require an external hard drive at each particular detachment or office that they have then?
That is one option, yes. Then they're actually going to do 5 separate Solicitor General reports and things like that. So if they're jumping from
necessarily.
Okay, so if you need to combine it all into one Solicitor General report, then we would want to have one consolidated database. And it's funny you should mention this, because I was just talking about to the care victim unit here in Edmonton yesterday about this.
Mm-hmm.
They travel around the province all the time, and they want to actually take their data out of the office with them.
Yeah.
Because they're on the road all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So they were asking what the options were for them. And one of their options would be to have a laptop that has, say, a biometric security feature built into it, such as an iris scanner or a fingerprint scanner. So if the laptop is stolen, they still can't open it because they don't have the fingerprint or the iris. It's going to pass the scan. So they are looking at the possibility of doing that. Instead of having an external drive, just having a special laptop that's secured by biometric measures.
Okay.
So that might work in other situations as well, but again, it's entirely up to the individual units as to what their tolerance level is for possibly having their data stolen.
Right, because I'm thinking with Ranchlands, it's, well, with the exception of Crow's Nest Pass, it's one unit that services 4 different detachments. So they do need the combined data. But for things like mayor's reports or those types of things, they may want to have the option of separating it out and saying, okay, well, for Pecani detachment, these are the stats specifically for that detachment. For JSG, they are going to want everything combined.
Okay, so if it's all in one database, the program's already set up to split it up into separate municipalities, so that's not a problem. If we had multiple databases and we wanted to consolidate it into one report for the Solicitor General or whatever reason, that's not set up right now. We would have to think about how to do that, or whether we would want to perhaps use these secured laptops the way I was describing.
Right.
We would need to talk about how to accomplish this.
Okay.
There's lots of options.
This is Christine with Ranchlands here. Our general reports are separate, only Part B is combined, so we have separate reports for each detachment. And so I was wondering, would I need then a laptop and the program, I guess, in each of my detachments so that the volunteers, anytime they work on a file, they can enter it?
Yes. Yes. You're going to need multiple computers because you've got people working simultaneously in different offices.
Different detachments.
Now,
okay.
There is another option that I was discussing with the care unit the other day. They didn't think this option would work for them, but another option is to have a central server where all your data is stored and let people connect to it using something called remote desktop so that they are controlling a session on that server. This means they are connected to the internet. It means internet hacking is a possibility, but if you're careful, it's pretty remote that you would get hacked, but it's not 100%. I mean, the only way to be 100% sure you're not getting hacked is don't do anything that connects you to the internet, and don't do anything that uses wireless keyboards or wireless mouse and things like that. Anything that's wireless or anything that's connected to the internet, theoretically, you are at risk.
But the internet connection would be difficult too then, because we would not be allowed to tap into the RCMP internet.
Correct.
So we'd have to have air cards or something for each attachment, so that would get quite costly too then, right?
Well, it doesn't have to be an air card. Oh, I see, because they don't have their own internet connection at each. Yes, I see what you're saying.
That's right.
Yes,
yeah.
I don't. The RCMP is going to. Yep, you are absolutely right.
Okay.
It's going to be a problem. Okay, we'd have to think about this. There's many different ways to accomplish different tasks. So I was only talking about this yesterday to the Edmonton Care Unit, and we didn't really get into it deeply, but maybe there's other things we could do. We need to discuss.
And then a different question, which goes back to the actual database again. We have several files in which we have multiple victims that are not family members. For example, with the bank robbery, we have like 8 completely separate victims, but it is one occurrence. Would there be room then to enter all those different victims with all their information?
I would suggest setting up 8 separate files and linking them as a group using a group number. So they are related files, but they are unique files. Because for statistical purposes, you want to count this as 8 clients that you're helping.
No, for statistical purposes with JSG, because it is one police occurrence, we would have to count it as one file with 8 victims.
Oh, okay. You're doing it differently than the way they do it at other units, because other units, each police file can have many, more than one person, more than one client. That surprises me.
But if it's one police occurrence, I was under the understanding one police occurrence would be one file because it all has the same occurrence number. It's just 8 victims within the same file.
But if you're helping 8 people, then you should be counting those as 8 separate clients, in my opinion.
Yeah, we count them as 8 victims. We count them as 8 victims, but one file that now has 8 victims.
Right. So when you do your quarterly statistics, if you gave each of those victims a victim impact statement, that would be 8 copies of that. And if you, I mean, they could all be getting slightly different services, even though they're all in the same police file. Like the way the system is designed, you don't even have to have a police file because people can come from other referral areas as well, or even self-refer themselves. So we don't try to make a direct connection between a police file number and a victim services file number. And we can have multiple files in the system that have the same police file number.
Okay. Okay. And if you have clients that use different last names, like we have, it's fairly common in one of our areas that people use 2 or 3 different names. And, you know, one day they'll call in as Christine Brown, and the next day they'll call in and it's Christine Smith, but it's the same person. They just use their different last names. Would there be a spot to tag that so that if one of our volunteers is looking, that it tags that is the same person?
I would suggest putting that into, okay, I'm going on the client screen if you're watching right now, and we have a tab right next that says contacts.
Yeah.
So under contacts, we could type in the word alias here.
Okay. Okay.
Now, we don't have that in the drop-down, but you can just type it in for the moment here. It will let you do that. And we should add
And
that.
then if we do a search, it will show up.
And then it's going to show up, yes, and it will say this is an alias.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
We should add that. We should add that to the drop-down. I never thought of that.
Yeah, you should. I'm surprised that hasn't come up because that's quite common. So they might, you know, alternate between a married name and a maiden name or something like that. So.
Yeah, good point. Okay, we will add alias in the near future next week probably.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, is there a place on here that indicates if UCR scoring has been completed?
Yeah, just a minute here. It's on the client screen. Last score date. So you'll see right here it's in gray, which means you can't change it. But the way this works is every time you do something on the packaging or on the screen, it automatically updates back to here and says the last time somebody did what we call a scoring function.
No, but what I'm referring to is we always make sure that the police have scored on pros on their system that victim services has been recommended and accepted.
Oh.
So is there a place that we can put that on here as well, that we have checked with RCMP that they have scored us properly on their system?
That is not in here yet. This sounds like something that we may have to add.
Yeah, so that would be RCMP UCR scoring. So there's a number of different scoring that they do. So like victim services offered but declined, victim services offered and accepted, you know, those types.
And there's a proactive referral as well.
Right.
Oh, okay. So that kind of stuff, just a minute here. We do have, where the heck is this? Contact info verified. Those kind of statistics are on the, here, referral source. So referred to police declined, outreach, and these are all the abbreviations from the Solicitor General report. So those things are here. Is this what you were thinking about?
Yeah, that's some of them. I don't know if that's entirely like consistent with what the UCR stuff is, but that would cover some of it for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, if that's the purpose of that tab.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying if that's the purpose of that tab that you're looking at right there, if that's in reference to what the police have scored on their system.
This was actually taken from the Solicitor General's statistics, so these are the categories that they show on theirs. It's not taken from the police system, I don't believe. Anyway, you know, if this is something that needs to be added, we'll just add it. It's not, doesn't sound like it would be complicated to add this.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, you guys? If I know I've sent out Dale's information, but if you have any questions or anything, feel free to. If you don't have that information, if you've got more questions for Dale, give me a call. I also have a list of the people or the units that are currently using it. If you want to speak to some of the program managers and staff that are using it currently. So far, everybody seems to be pretty happy about the amount of time saved and stuff, especially with the quarterly reporting. So.
And is there some training, like say that, it's Christine again, if we purchase the program, is there some initial training that comes with it, or, yeah, okay.
Yeah, actually I'd like to refer you, I just went to this website, www.iwatch.info, that's the Neighborhood Watch website for St. Albert, /VSCM, and here I put a page that has some screenshots, just so if you wanted to look at what we looked at today, most of the screens are here, but down at the very bottom, it gives you some information. My contact information is here. That's the name of my company. I'm retired, is that? So my phone number is there and my email. And it tells you here that, I think it tells you here that, oh, here we are. So free installation assistance and training by telephone.
Okay.
So if I don't have to come to your site, then we can talk all day long on the phone and it costs you nothing. So that's how I've been doing almost all of the training. The only units that I've ever gone on site for was Fort Saskatchewan, because that was the first one we ever did, and Shirley wanted me to help her install the Microsoft Office program. And Red Deer, they asked me to come down for a day because they had an existing system, and it was pretty complicated. They have 5 computers down there. Anyway, so if I have to come on site, then there is charges for that. But if it can be done by phone, there's never a charge.
Okay.
And it also gives you the pricing here, $500 for the first computer, $250 for a computer.
Yep.
And again, that includes unlimited support. And of course, that's an annual fee. But that means you also get updates all the time. So when the Solicitor General makes changes or someone else asks for an enhancement, you are entitled to those changes. They've been coming out approximately every week on average, but you don't have to update every week. Most people say, you know, bug me once every quarter and we'll update it.
How are those updates done?
Sorry, I missed that. There was two people talking at once.
Yeah, my question was annual from date of purchase, or does it go by calendar year?
It goes from date of purchase. So actually, it goes from 30 days after the date of purchase. So if we, or the date that we install it is what I should say. So if you said, I want to try this out, I will send you the program over the phone. We will install it together, and I'll give you the training session. And then you have 30 days to try it out. And if at the end of 30 days you want to keep it, that's when the period starts for charging. And so it would be $500 per year from that date onward.
And if I wanted to say we want to get it for all 5 detachments, could we say we start with, you know, one for the $500 and then add the others later at the $250, or do they all have to be purchased at once?
Nope, you can add anytime you want. In fact, Leduc bought one, and now I think they're going to add 2 more. Sometimes you have to wait for funding. I mean, there's lots of reasons why you can't jump in with both feet right out of the gate. So we're very flexible. This money goes to Neighborhood Watch. It doesn't go to me unless I go on site. If it's on site, then I get paid. But if I'm just doing it over the phone, it's all volunteer for me. So we're not here to try and, you know, rip you guys off or steal money from you. We want you to be happy, and if it's something that's valuable to you, then we think $500 a year is a reasonable price. And that money, I should point out, goes to Neighborhood Watch, and we use that for our block party program because we sponsor block parties in St. Albert, and we provide free hamburgers and hot dogs. We can't use grant money for that because generally food is off limits for grants. So we have to use general funds, and that's where this money goes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for all the information.
No problem. Glad to ask, or glad to help.
Yeah, and there's a number of really good comments on here in the chat box, Dale. I don't know if you've looked at them.
I haven't.
Marcy, Gloria, Raylene, Flagstaff. So, yeah, very interesting. And every time I listen, I learn something new. So that's great.
Wonderful. I minimized that that little box early on because it was blocking part of my screen, so I'm not sure if I get it back. When I click on the icon, it doesn't come back.
Do you have there's sometimes it drops down to a little minimal one on the side. Do you see anything? I'm not seeing anything on you.
Oh, wait a minute. I see it. Yes, there we go. I found it. Sorry, I'm not very smart about this stuff. I don't use it.
That's okay.
Okay, I can see some comments there. Is there a way for me to quickly copy those and put them somewhere before the session ends so I can read them later?
I'm not sure. That's a good question. I don't know. Maybe just or I don't know if you're able to just do a screenshot maybe even.
Yeah, they're scrolling off my screen, so I don't know what to do here.
I know at one point I was able to make this box a lot bigger, so I'm just trying to figure out why I can't seem to do that now.
Yeah, if I'm just looking at here, screen. No, that's not. If you know of a way to get these comments recorded, if you could just paste them into an email for me, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I'll play around with it a bit here. Okay.
I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thanks, and
yes,
I'll be in touch. I'll see if people just want the recorded one, or if I know we certainly haven't reached everybody. There's other people that said they couldn't make it today, so we may want to do a couple more of these if you've got the time to do that.
Sure, anytime. I'm happy to do this.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dale.
Thank you for attending. I really appreciate the interest.
Thank you.
No, it looks really, really terrific. Thank you. And thanks, Roxanne, for putting this on. You're amazing.
No, thanks.
We love ya.
Okay, then. Bye for now. You can call me anytime if you guys have questions.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye now.
Thanks, Dale. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, Rox. Bye, everyone.
Talk to you soon.